Yeah, man, this is Danny Dreadlock telling you, say, the time has come for the lion story to be heard, you know? Here, there, and everywhere. Have no fear. The lion story. And this is the lion voice. Seeing production. Every time.
Well, front to us, a son was born and a child was given.
I want to ask you a question. Have you got your book? Haile Selassie's Ethiopia Volume 1, The Rise of the Priest Warrior King. I've read the book in its entirety, and I must say it's very inspirational, very informative, and very historical, right?
Them call him Rastafari. When he was born, rainfall from sky. Them call him Rastafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Rastafari. Lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Rastafari. Read your Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England.
We're going to get deep into the reasoning family. We have attorney Marcus Goffe here. If you're not subscribed to the platform, go and subscribe to the platform as we build this journey. So, in terms of what was your first professional job outside of law school?
Outside of law school, right. So when I left law school, I went and joined my mother in chambers.
Okay.
My mother was a senior lawyer doing land law and conveyancing, as we call it. So I went and joined her chambers, and spent several years there. Which is on Duke Street in the heart of the legal district, as we call it, in Kingston.
Okay.
So yeah, but at the same time, really maintaining my own practice as well.
Okay.
Doing criminal law, very much of court work in those years, civil and criminal. In the parish court, Supreme Court, gun court, and so forth, and really learning from that corridor. That Duke Street corridor in Kingston is an important corridor in terms of law and legal minds. So work with a lot of seniors in those years.
Okay.
Very nurturing, senior legal counsel and thing.
Were you doing ganja related cases in those days?
If what?
Were you doing ganja related cases in those days, in those early days, doing criminal law?
Yeah, definitely. Ganja has always been a big part of the criminal justice system, but I would say most of the time, those days, is small amounts, that really I would assist ones with the one come to me about, and oftentimes in those times, mostly is that you plead guilty,
Yes.
A small fine. Them time the judge will fine you like $100, fee a small amount, ounce or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So that was really what a lot of the system was really comprised of. When I get arrested for spliff, when I get arrested for $50 bag, bills bag, you know what I mean? Sometimes I end up spending, rarely still, but sometimes I end up spending night in jail and these things, you know what I mean? For ganja. So most time is that, most time possession, dealing, not so much cultivation,
Okay. And explain the difference between the different charges. So you have possession, dealing, cultivation. Explain those terms, because they're going to come in important as we continue into this discussion. So just give us a general explanation of those terms.
Right. Well, possession of ganja speaks to having it in your possession, or on you, or in premises that you control, or a vehicle that you control. They'll charge you for possession. You know what I mean? Which I'm saying is a very common offense, because that's the basic offense. And we start with possession, then there might be other charges now accompanied. So dealing generally, they would speak to showing some evidence of transacting in the sale of ganja, right? Normally through them see persons selling, or there's an exchange of cash, or there's other evidence like how the ganja is packaged, as if it is to be distributed commercially for sale and such. Those is what they normally then charge for dealing on top of the possession.
Okay.
Cultivation, I mean, it really means farming, of course, right? So it's really cultivating, based on seed that you have either been cultivating for yourself or somebody else's farm, that you're found to have been involved with, right? And sometimes it can just be a one plant too. I mean, the charge Bujubantan for cultivating, it's coming to cultivating. So one plant, outside the
Wow.
studio. Just so, what I mean? Again, them thing a big crime and serious crime. I mean, historically, someone go to prison for them thing there.
Wow.
Have it like felonies, what I mean? Some of the more serious crimes. So ganja kind of far away when it comes to the law, how the law has treated and dealt with ganja. You know what I mean? Again, it's not Jamaica alone, as we know, it's a global thing. The globe get kind of tricked into vilifying and criminalizing ganja. The people who engage with ganja, what I mean? And it's caused a whole generation of intergenerational trauma, and again, a legacy that we have still not really know engaging with, and that's something that is also a part of, I think, justice for ganja, for the plant and for users, for this many generations of stigmatization and criminalization, what I mean, and lies, misinformation, and these type of things perpetuated on the people, how much families this thing mash up. Rastafari
Wow.
and grassroots families to come when we go to court in them time. It's not only Rastaman, of course, it's enough
I was gonna ask you. I was gonna
youths
ask
and
you what
boys
type
and
of
man
people.
and woman.
Yes.
Enough one charge for ganja. I mean, I've been known to say it has been the lifeblood of people in Jamaica and other parts because of this, again, economic, structures of slavery and colonization, right?
Give us some of the. I mean, and we're gonna come forward to the I story because I want to get into the IP. Because your IP resume is also very impressive. So we want to touch that. But before we go there, so give us a history of the plant and the relationship. Why in this British colony, we're coming from pre-independence, was this plant criminalized? We know in the US, in the 1930s and the whole thing. But in terms of the British system, and if you may not know the details, but if you know what was the history of why cannabis was criminalized, within the British system, do you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, historically, the the criminalization of cannabis, they say, started from concerns that Indian hemp was rising too much amongst the Indian population. That
Okay.
time India is still a British colony, you know, and so this Indian hemp thing was really localized as that issue, and this was brought forward as a concern to the British, right? So, in that respect, it's the British who brought this thing to the United Nations as a concern. Really, just they were at that time asking, as I recall, for some further studies to be done, to inquire into this thing, because the international drug conventions were never looking at marijuana at all, you know,
Okay.
right? But this is what came on the table as an Indian hemp query, a request for research, and somewhere along the lines now, it seems from what the records show, even inadvertently, this thing turned into now including Indian hemp on this list of prohibited substances, you know what I mean? Um, and things. So, and again, based on, let's say, the impact it had on the Indian population or some segments of the Indian population, right? So that is really how nationally in the UK and in the UK colonies, and then through that internationally, we had this criminalization of ganja. Of course, I mean, we know the pharmaceutical side to that as well too, right? Which would have, lobbied for that because, of course, we know said there was a time when cannabis was recognized across the world as very valuable medicine, indispensable for every
Yes.
medicine chest. You
Yes.
know what I
Yes.
mean? And so how that acceptance now turned into the criminalization of the plan, right? Again, through Indian hemp concern and thing, really to me, again, reflect a kind of racial root of this thing. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because if it was a situation where there was feelings that it was happening in London or happening amongst white populations or so forth, maybe it wouldn't have had this concern, you know what I mean? But this non-white population, this drug that they seem to, have a great affinity for and to seem to disturb the status quo, right?
Yes.
Legal and politically. And that's how it ended up being that way. If you see how ganja come through the US criminalization, then we see it's the Mexican then
Yes.
pin it up now to say,
Well,
well,
that's what I was going to say, and even the timeline tracks, because in the U.S. it was the late 1930s with the Marijuana Taxation Act. They changed the name of cannabis to marijuana, which was a Mexican weed to make it more exotic. And then you're talking about the UN, which of course is the 1940s. So, because I was going to ask, do you think the United States had something to do in terms of the U.S. lobby has always been against the plant because of the commercial interests, and perhaps the U.S. lobbying on an international level to have that Indian hemp included? I'm speculating, of course, but it would track in terms of the timeline. You know what I mean?
yeah.
With,
Yeah. I shall lift up I eyes unto the hills from whence cometh I help. I help coming from the true living eyes, Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie the First, who created Zion and earth. He shall not suffer I foot to be moved. I hold, he that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. Well, youths in the streets right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. Bun bad police right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The youths them rise against brutality, man a kill another man for your salary. Them train them at the shooting gallery, black and loot, you might lose all your family. Them defend white supremacy, so them see the African as them enemy. It's been like this for centuries, them sick mentally. That's why we have you out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. Bun bad police right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down.